Monday we're going to do a little seminar in the airport barracks, yes, as an example, which is empty. This is obviously the railway yards, which has got some interesting potential very near the centre. This, as you know, is obviously Songshan, where again there's lots of showcasing, but you can't actually see people, younger entrepreneurs, producing. And that environment, as yet, hasn't been created, even though there are these vast numbers of empty buildings. Yesterday we did a tour of empty buildings we only looked at them, near Huashan, and we discovered about 20 which were empty, yeah? One owned by the tax office, and we think that building is a very good one to open out. It's a wonderful tax office building, which I don't know why it's empty, but it's apparently been empty for 10 years. But there are many other of these buildings. And this reminds me very much of the situation elsewhere, which Leo will talk about, which is this is the view outside his creative factory. But what I found interesting about his offices and stuff like that is that here there are about 6 companies in one way or another collaborating. I don't know exactly what they do, Leo, but they seem to be getting on fine and they're producing stuff. Yes, I think you would agree. And also because the spaces are so flexible, it's sort of creating a certain sort of synergy. Now, in the Netherlands, and I'm not going to talk more about this, there are about 33 of these organisations, these places, which between them, and I'm a bit involved in this, have 4,000 businesses in them. Not 4, not 40, not 400, but 4,000 businesses, which when you go there, you actually can see the Dutch potential being expressed, and this visibility is very important. If we just quickly now go to Helsinki, because Jarmo's here, the startup sauna, I think, is a very interesting place, and again, when you go in it, sauna, obviously Finnish sauna, again, you see a bit of chaos, but it's interesting, and within that building is the headquarters of the Aalto Student Entrepreneurship Society, correct me if I'm wrong, Jarmo, which I think has 7,000 members. So just imagine, there are 7,000 individual people who are in this university who are members of the Entrepreneurship Society. So is it surprising that, for example, the gaming industry is doing quite well, as an example, in the city of Helsinki? And here also note the connections that Finland and Helsinki is making to Silicon Valley and other places. And this is, Jarmo will obviously explain this and I will not, why that is the case. But what's so interesting, it's very different from the building very nearby, which is called Technopolis and Inopoli, where there's also some innovation. But this is very much the slightly old-fashioned way of building a very corporate type headquarters, which doesn't have the same sort of feeling of life as what I just showed. So what type of city does Taipei then therefore need to be? Because this transformation I've discussed is about Taipei being a certain sort of place. What is a sort of place that really generates some sense of, it says oxygen here, but some sort of air and fresh air, which resonates, which becomes magnetic for other people? And I'm just going to simplify the world and say there's a city 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. I'm just using computer language for the moment. Now the problem is that 1.0, this is not 1.0, this is 3.0 city. A 1.0 city is one that I'm about to show you. And I apologise that these look negative. Okay, so the first city is very much about hardware. It's the people in the construction industry defining what a city looks and feels like. And I have not known that people in the construction industry necessarily know what a great city feels like and so on. So, this clicker doesn't work. So this is a bit 1.0, it's okay. This is looking outside of the Ritz-Landis hotel, that's okay, it's fine, doesn't matter. Oh yeah, but I like walking around. Oh yeah, no, that's a good idea, Jan, thank you. So you mean I can just go boom, 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 like that?
You just do like this. That's better. If you want the screen,
Ah, yeah, that's great. I wish I had your computer competence. That would be fantastic. No, it's great. Anyway, so this again is a famous sort of crossing, we know that, nothing wrong with that I suppose, but slightly soulless. Oh, we've gone the wrong way. This is a typical view of Taipei. It's quite interesting in its own way, but whether it's satisfactory from an emotional perspective is another question. Here, this shopping centre, which is perhaps interesting to look at from out of space, but actually is not very satisfactory from a sensory perspective. And I suppose also there's an economy 1.0. So that's the physical 1.0. The economy 1.0 is very much the factory. The culture 1.0 is very much, I don't know, having public art. Because you build rather ugly things, put a piece of public art in front. So the problem with this is really what I call the urban engineering approach. And it's an approach that doesn't understand the connection between local distinctiveness, creativity, and the city. So many people have said, we need to rethink that. We need to say if there's a different way of looking at it, if there's another sort of plan. And so the 2.0 city is much more which I suppose is about what does the city feel like from a people perspective. And here Taipei has obviously done some things, but 101 is a version of that. It has its own qualities. Xinmending is another version of that. It's quite good in its own way. And then there's the sort of economy 1.0, which is typically the science park, which is separated somewhere out there somewhere, not connected to the city. And then there's a culture 2.0, which is more focusing on the creative economy and cultural industries. And that's fine, I suppose. But I think where we're moving towards is what Jialin calls soft urbanism 3.0, which understands that the way the economy works is different. It's not just one idea, one producer, one distributor. It's much more about small entities collaborating in various ways, finding different ways of producing things and distributing things in various value chains. It's where people are working on the move all the time. It's connected to the here-there phenomenon. It might even, like this German invention, have a movable office and so on, much more flexible. It connects a bit to things like Jason's TEDx there, which is next week, by the way, is that right? Next weekend, where people discuss ideas that matter, where people connect, like in your Maker's Bar that we saw yet later. It's a sort of economy where more people can have ideas, and perhaps it's about open innovation in various ways. So it's a slightly different type of city. It has different types of activities, like the Makers Fair. It's very much connected to how younger people feel about things, perhaps, and how they operate in this world. And the cultural 3.0 is very much you making the culture itself. It's much more interactive. But that can even be actually done in a quite interesting way, like this sculpture which or this piece of public art, which is in the metro station here in Taipei. But the planning 3.0 is more collaborative. And obviously, as we all know, it's about the whole notion of network thinking and so on. But I think the issue is really this great misalignment in Taipei. There's so much thinking which is still the 1.0 thinking in a world that is a 3.0 world. And that needs to be perhaps brought together in a new way. So what are the factors for success as I just finished? The factors for success, I think you all know. And we always then seem to be saying the same words, and I'm reluctant to use these words like collaboration and so on. But it is clearly the thing. And there's just been a survey that I received this morning, which I've just been waiting for, which is a survey which I will send anyone who wants it, of 450 successful examples of city projects from 6 countries, particularly the Nordic countries. And I received it this morning, I just looked at it, skimmed it, and it's saying exactly the same things that many of you people are saying, that cities of ambition have a clarity of purpose, they find a way of telling the story about their purpose. The public sector provides a framework, perhaps a master plan in some broad sense, if it's a physical thing, within which there is flexibility. There is, at that moment, and this is the key issue, you hand it over to community or private interests to just get on with it. And you really do control much less. Now the places where this seems to work best, and the Netherlands is one example where this works, are places where there is this trust. And this brings me to full circle, back to the point that the trust issue is one of the central issues that have emerged in the last few years, that there's insufficient trust between the public and private interest, and unless that is rebuilt in some way, and perhaps the platform I'm talking can help that, it's going to be very difficult to move forward. So it is about, in a sense, what is each party bringing to the party, if I can say that, and that implies obviously integrated thinking, working across boundaries, and so on. And as a final example, I just want to give you something I find quite interesting. I was doing some work in Ghent, and there was a very, very, very small department. There were 4 people in it, and it was run by a woman who was then 32, and since this was 3 years ago, she's 35 now. And it was called the Bureaucratic Simplification Department. And what I liked is the fact that it was a young woman running this very small department which was simplifying procedures across the city. I just think that's a wonderful lesson, and it reminds me of that expression by Albert Einstein: the thinking that got you where you are and the problems you have will not be the thinking that gets you to where you want to be. So, thank you very much.